Okay, hi guys, so my name is Alex, and to start things off, I just have a few questions for you guys today. So, are you constantly texting? Do you feel the urge to text in class, when you're out with your friends, when you're out in public? Do you feel somehow lost or insecure if you accidentally forget your cell phone at home? If you answered yes to one or more of these questions, and I know you did, you might be suffering from a condition known as a cell phone addiction. You might be a text-aholic, and this is an intervention. So for those of you who still aren't quite convinced, I want you to take a look at this picture. What is the very first thing that comes to mind when you see something like this? For most of you, your very first instinct is you want to see what is in that message. You want to read it. And we feel a kind of compulsion to always open messages when we see something like this. And it's not something that's easy to ignore. So why does this happen? It almost seems as if we've somehow been trained to always open text messages as soon as we get them. So training actually occurs through a process known as operant conditioning. And if any of you guys have ever trained a pet, you've probably used operant conditioning without even realizing it. So operant conditioning works by creating an association between a behavior and a consequence. So for example, if you were teaching your dog how to sit, if you wanted to teach them this sitting behavior, you would do this by pairing it with a consequence, such as giving your dog a treat. Once your dog learns this association, this will lead to training. So if we want to reinforce a behavior, we want to use rewards. So again, if you wanted to teach your dog the behavior of sitting, you could do this by giving him the reward of a treat every time he sits on command. If you repeat this over enough trials, your dog will eventually learn that when he sits, he will get a treat, and this will lead to an increase in the sitting behavior. So this is all well and good, but why should you guys care? The interesting thing about operant conditioning is that it doesn't only work on animals, it also works on humans. So as you can imagine, this is actually the exact same process by which we are being trained to text. So if we really are being trained to text, there must be some kind of reward that's reinforcing our behavior, right? So this reward actually comes from a feeling associated with social interactions. So when we open a text message, we are receiving social information, and this makes us feel good. So the more we text, the more of this social information we get, and of course, the more texting we are going to continue to do. And this is such a powerful reinforcer for us because humans are a very social species. We are always surrounding ourselves by other people, we tend to live in large groups, and social interaction is a very important part of our daily lives. And we're so used to social interactions as humans that we don't really realize that compared to other species, we put a lot of emphasis on social interaction. So for example, animals such as the polar bear are actually completely solitary animals. They have very little day-to-day social interaction. And this is one of the reasons that you guys have probably never seen a polar bear texting. So why do we care so much about social interaction as humans? To answer this question, we have to look back at our evolutionary history. So our ancestors lived in a hunter-gatherer society in large groups, and they really had to rely on one another for survival. So if there were any individuals who were unable or unwilling to create social relationships, they would be ostracized from the group, and they would not be able to survive. So humans have really evolved to seek out social interactions in order to survive. So what are some of the dangers of texting? I can't tell you guys how many times I've been sitting in a room with a bunch of friends that I know, but none of us are saying a word because we're all sitting texting on our phones. So this is a perfect example of how texting can really get in the way of our everyday lives. So some people can become so obsessed with their cell phones that they miss out on real-life experiences that are going on right in front of their eyes. And the problem doesn't just end with texting. So nowadays, social media sites such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram are becoming very popular. And these sites actually provide us with the exact same social information as texting does. So when you post a picture on Facebook, you receive likes, you receive comments, and that makes you feel good about yourself. So as you can imagine, now we're not just dealing with text-aholics, we're dealing with Facebook-aholics, Twitter-aholics, Instagram-aholics, and the list really goes on. So the good news is for you guys that there is still hope. So although our behavior is being reinforced through operant conditioning, you still have control over your own actions. So my advice to you is next time you're going to go out, leave that cell phone at home because you never know what kinds of experiences you might be missing out on when you're living your life behind a keyboard. Thank you.